Okay, good afternoon or good morning, whenever you are watching this recording of our new coaches webinar sponsored by the Michigan High School Esports League. Really appreciate you taking the time to be a coach and support student athletes in our league and all the volunteer hours that you're going to be putting into this. Really with this webinar, we wanted to connect folks with one of our veteran savvy esports coaches and kind of just talk about best practices, give you some tips and hints on how to really run a successful team or club, and just some things to be mindful of to make sure that it's just a great experience, not only for the students, but for the coaches as well. So I just want to introduce folks real quick to who's all kind of assisting on this webinar. My name is Ryan Casey. I'm the Director of Esports for the Michigan High School Esports League, and kind of behind the scenes today is the Assistant Director, Maggie Helmer. And really the person that you want to listen to more than myself today is going to be Eric Hines, who's a teacher and esports coach at Divine Child High School. And there is all of our contact info up there. So if you have any questions, you want to follow up after you watch this webinar, there's email, Twitter, Discord handles, all that good stuff. And really when it comes to like specifics, Eric's probably going to be the person you want to talk to. If you're talking from a coaching lens, if you have questions about the league itself, you can send those over to Maggie or myself. We'll go ahead and go on to the next slide just for time. As I mentioned, we really want to talk about some strategy skills, traits of what it takes to be a quality coach. Really talk about some of the technical needs you're going to want to make sure you double check when it's time to start competing in games. Just help you grow your basic understanding of the different titles and how that all works. How our league works in general with the format regarding seasons, some special events we have planned for this fall and spring. And then obviously other things related to best practices. You'll be able to follow up with us via email or on social media with any other specific questions that we don't answer on this webinar. Go ahead and go to the next one, Maggie. So just to talk a little bit of the Michigan High School Esports League basics. Let's go ahead and start with our mission statement, which is to provide a safe, competitive, and curricular environment that allows student and athletes the opportunity to build critical skill sets, explore vast career paths, contribute to their school culture within varsity esports. And we really want to be Michigan's elite high school esports league. So you've probably heard some of this information before if you sat on one of our 101 webinars, or if you saw any sort of promotional pamphlets, or if you talked to anybody else at other schools. But it's really important that obviously competitive gameplay is kind of the heart and soul of what we do, but there's so many more great benefits that we want to make sure we are capitalizing on for students within our league. You see this quote a lot that we promote, as well as with our partners Playverse, is that no matter the results, when students compete, school culture wins. And hopefully you'll find that that you're going to have some students that are on your team that probably have not been typically engaged in other avenues of high school yet. And hopefully this is their opportunity to kind of participate and really have an enjoyable experience and want to continue to be part of their school community, because that'll impact your school culture. And it's, you know, we said with the Michigan Association of Secondary Principals, why we got involved in this is if it's good for kids, it's good for principals, it's good for the entire school, right? So that's what it's all about. There is kind of our heat map from last year. If you kind of browse the list, you'll see schools in different colors based on if they participate in the fall or the spring. We do have some that participate in one or the other. We have plenty that do both, but hopefully you see a neighboring school that's on there, because that would be a great coach to reach out to and ask questions, to set up scrimmages, and just really kind of develop your own little coaches network as well. And then also, if you notice somebody that isn't nearby you, that's a great opportunity for you to refer some other schools and try and get them to start. There's a referral program that is offered where a new school that joins, if they use your coach's referral code or link, they get $500, but the referring school also gets $500 towards their enrollment fees. So just something to be mindful of as we try and spread ourselves around the state to make a nice, big, popular, healthy league. We have two seasons during each roughly semester of school. You've probably seen this again during one of our other webinars, but right now we're in the preseason mode, getting ready to launch our fall season towards the end of September, and that'll carry us through until the new year starts, in which we have semester 2, but you'll have typically a couple weeks of preseason. That's the time we want to get all these tech mishaps out of the way. Make sure you can figure out which kids are committed that are going to be on your varsity team. 8 weeks roughly of a regular season, and then a postseason tournament with a championship event in both semesters. And there's kind of the schedule for this year, what games, different titles will be played on. Again, the ones in yellow, those are our 3 state leagues. So those are only schools in Michigan that'll be competing on those. The other ones are more of a regional or national scale with other schools from other states. I think this is the last slide just about for me before you get to hear from the expert. But those are kind of the dates where we are right now for the fall season. The one I will point out is our championship event. Whether you get to make it to the championships or not, we hope you get to attend. I do think your student athletes will enjoy watching that, which will be at Oakland University on Saturday, December 10th. All right, I'm going to hand it over now to Eric. Eric, thanks so much for taking the time to be on this. I think this is going to be a great resource, as we kind of discussed, for the new coaches that are watching this now or in the future. So really appreciate it. And
not a problem, Ryan. Thank you very much. I just want to piggyback off of Ryan really fast, that in-person state championships, even if you don't make, I think we're doing quarterfinals or semifinals and the finals in person, getting your students and players into that environment and seeing the excitement for everyone there, that will light fires for your players. So if you're having a hard time getting them to commit in a serious sense, practice in a serious sense, when they see that event and it's real for them, that will 100% bring them around. That will light many fires where suddenly you were having a hard time getting them to practice. Now you're having a hard time, like, hey, it's my Saturday. Create an arena and practice on your own. So please come on out, even if your team doesn't make it all the way to those finals situations. Come on out, support the teams. It's a great chance to meet everybody. We have one person with us. Awesome. Fantastic. I don't think I can see names for my position, but welcome aboard. Hello, it's Adrian. I hope I am saying that right. Hello, Adrian. Maggie, I am about to take control. So right now, we're going to go over the basics of your Playverse dashboard, because if you're anything like me, probably a day ahead of time is when you started playing around with the Playverse dashboard the first time, and it can be a little intimidating. So Maggie, I'm going to hit the yes button on the share here, and let's see if it'll let me take control. Awesome. Fantastic. I hope everyone is seeing that. Ryan's giving me a thumbs up. So right now we are on my Playverse landing page. So once you log in, hit go, get your passwords all right and correct, this is the first page you will see. I do not personally spend a lot of time on the landing page, but there are some neat options that you can use for your players. The very first one is this activity button here. This gives you an opportunity to put out any information to your players that you need. Scheduling practice times, delay of practice times. Hey, 30 minutes to game time. Please get down to the room. Any of those kind of messages goes out to your entire team, and they'll see it in a feed like this. I even set up a test feed just so that when we did this presentation, everyone could see. I talk to my players. It comes through on their school email accounts, if that's what they use. So my players generally have notifications set on their iPads. We are a one-to-one school for that. And so this little test message popped up for them. It brought them right to Playverse, and they can see all that information. Playverse automatically puts your scores up for your wins, losses, and who you were playing in this section as well. You'll see a lot of repeat actions that you can do on this page as well. You will see manage players, manage your coaches, your billing, and your setting cycle up here. Not a whole lot in the settings situation outside of here's my school's Discord, website addresses, like pretty much profile kind of pieces if you're used to previous social media platforms. It'll also list all your coaches down on the side. A note, if you are lucky enough to have multiple coaches, when you accept your coaches in, they will be listed for every single team you have. So if you look here, I do not have 12 separate teams. I only have 4 teams. Just every coach is listed for every team. In my conversations with Playverse, they are looking at updating that so we can be specific for which coach for which title, which I highly recommend if you have that convenience. It's just not in play right now. Rather than touching on the managing players and managing coaches here, I like to use that under the managing teams tab, which is loading up for us right now. The reason for that is this gives you your create team situation. So if you're brand new and you're starting your Smash team, or it's a new season and you've decided to add a Rocket League team, the manage teams page is where you're going to do that from. So super simple process. Hit that create team. Pick the platform, or rather title you would like to use, and Playverse goes through that process for you. I don't want to, unfortunately, start a new team, so I'm going to step back from that process. All of your teams and players will be listed here. You have a drop down to take you through your separate titles. So if you want to see your Rocket League teams, you hit your Rocket League drop down. For each team, you have the ability to control your current roster and your bench. One of the things I've seen in the past seasons is not updating from bench to roster. Most of us are really cool, like, who's this player? We'll just start a conversation in chat just to make sure that everybody is signed up in the right positions. But on game day, just going through, if you have a player stepping out to the bench and your sub is coming in, this is the spot you update that. These double arrows is how you do it. If Dom is stepping out for the day and my sub stepping in, I just hit change position and I can select which individual is going into the roster, which individual is coming out, and just hit confirm, and off of it goes. We'll throw Jacob in for today since it's giving me a hard time. And now we see we've switched that bench out. You can also disable teams from here. Unfortunately, you can't like put a team into retirement and bring them back. If you take them off your create team, you are deleting them completely. Another option that's hidden in here, which I really wish was in a much more obvious place, but it is in this section, is your opt out of preseason. So if you are in process right now of getting your varsity team together, you don't know quite who your players are yet, this will take you out of the preseason so that you can get those pieces in order. If you don't hit that opt-out option, you will be scheduled in the preseason. You will have a coach reaching out and trying to contact you, trying to schedule that match. So that opt-out of preseason is right there. I wish there was a way to opt back in, like if you just wanted to miss the first week. I don't think there is, though. So we'll take it back to my Smash team. Right now, I only have one player on. If I needed to add players, the add player button works super simple. I see I got like 11 in-chat messages. If I pop over, started this week, check it out. All right, it looks like Maggie's covering all that. I am getting used to this presenting from a Zoom not having students situation. So if I stumble a little bit, please give me some grace on that. So there is managing teams. Once your team, yeah, sure.
I'm enjoying learning this as well because I wish we could have a high school MHSEL team, but we do not. So I don't get to see much of the dashboard stuff. Where it says game account connected, what does that mean? Does that mean that it's like the Playverses, or they have an account through, like, is it?
So this is for the specific titles. Thank you for bringing that one up. So if we look under my player Matthew here, this is their Nintendo friends code. And this is telling you that it is a Nintendo account. They have cleared all of their stuff. So you can double check these when people enter in arenas. The way arenas set up, though, and the way at least we run things only one account will be present. So this does kind of keep us honest with these players do have an account. Unfortunately, with the way Smash works, I'm going to set up the school switch. My players are probably going to cycle through the DC Falcons name. There's not really, you could have separate switches for every player. That's assuming you have the resources for separate switches. If all you have is one switch, then you would just be cycling your players out. And this just kind of keeps us together on how we could contact these other players if need be on switches. We can also see our match history from here. This is going all the way back to last year, and you can see how the team performed. Awesome. I think we're good there, right, Ryan? Awesome. Getting the thumbs up. So once your season has started, then you will see all of your upcoming matches listed here. So today, it looks like I have my DC Falcons Rocket League playing as well as my Falcons Smash. I don't have any matches scheduled yet, but I'm also looking at next week matches. In past results, you will see the past history. Unfortunately, because it's a new season, I don't have any past results for this season coming up. Then we have our standings tab. This just shows you where you are. It does get a little fidgety in the standings tab and takes a little bit to update and load. It naturally defaults now to Hearthstone, Fall, and Preseason. If you don't have a Hearthstone team, that gets a little frustrating, but it's a simple drop down. You just grab it, pick the league that you are looking for. So I'm going to go with our Michigan MHSEL Smash Brothers. If you can't tell, I am the Smash Brothers coach, so I do tend to lean that way and bias myself to all things Smash. And you will see your win-loss records here. Coming back to my schedule, if I bring up a match, if I'm going to open up my match right here, we have our queue opens. That tells you your countdown to how long you have until the match starts. And there's a lot of nice fact information here. How can you get into contact with these people? What to do if your queue doesn't open? How will the current match impact your current standings? This is all new this season. So Playverse really is adding a lot of information to get us over those opening hurdles. The queue time is new, and so unfortunately, it looks like it's got me locked out of what I wanted to show you next. If you give me 1 second, I'll see if I can bring up a past result and show you the information I was hoping to go over with you. Of course, Ryan, I practiced this on Tuesday, and we catch an update.
No worries. The preseason is here, so there's a lot of things going on. So understandable. No worries.
Awesome. So I am hoping once that queue time clears, you will see your standard mission control in a Smash Brothers game. Once that pops up, you'll see who your matchups are. So this is an old Novi game where I had my players against Novi players, and this is your matchups. So Jake had to go against Kevin, Tom had to go against Luke, and Lana had to go against Rishi. This is going to take some organization on you and your opponent's part, making sure that the proper players are sitting the seat at the time. Additionally, it gives you a nice checklist and your IT setup guide. So if you're in that preseason situation, you're having a hard time with connection issues, these IT setup guides, which obviously moved. I'm loving my Tuesday practice. I'm assuming the new queue time will take us to that IT setup guide. If not, I can show you where those resources are shortly. Off to the right, you will also see your opponent coach and all of their contact information, phone numbers, emails. If they have a Discord, they will be listed here. For your players and students, I imagine Discord is part of their daily life as a gamer. So I do recommend getting yourself set up with a Discord. It's a really easy way to communicate with your own players. And a lot of the coaches do have Discords as well. Makes it really easy to get a hold of each other. In the Smash section, we'll also find rules. How do you set up that battle arena? How does stage select work? Smash is a pretty intense pre-game style game. Rocket League, we kind of set up the match, we sign in, we get added in, and the match starts. In Smash Brothers, there's a lot of map banning, map selection, announcing your fighter style situations. I strongly recommend that you have your players read through that stage and fighter select situation, especially if this is the first time that they've competed in a online competition. They might not be familiar with these kind of sequences. They might hear something like a gentleman's PS2. What that means is the opponent is saying, hey, why don't we just play on Pokemon Stadium 2 as a starting match? As you get more advanced in Smash, especially, you'll see some of these gentleman agreements come up and into play. Having your players familiar with that will be super helpful. Speaking of resources, why don't I jump there and hope they didn't change anything else on me, which they didn't. Your resources tab is super helpful. Playverse also did something additional this season. They've made these resources searchable by Google. So in past seasons, you could not find this by doing a Google search, but I did test it on Tuesday. And you can now do like Playverse Smash Rulebook, and your resource center will come up on there. But you can find everything from your fall season, what your dates, what your times are. Here's your game rules. I really recommend that your players read through your game rules, because they will probably be doing your match setups for you. And in Smash, they're going to be sitting in that seat doing those map bans and player select announcements. But it's a simple click and you're off to the Smash rulebook. These are all hyperlinked really nicely, so you don't have to do a lot of scrolling. We're just going to pick our match lobby setup, and it'll take us right to it. It's really set up in a searchable fashion with your 3.3.5 if you get familiar enough. I'm sure if you're familiar with like Little League Baseball or football rules, the rule books are really set up in a very similar format to that. So the area, if you're into Smash, that I would really suggest for your players is the rule format. So how you're going to set up your switches if you are the host, game stocks, and then your finals format there. We can back out of that really easy. And another resource that I really want to point out is your technical resource, especially your IT troubleshooting, your game download sections. If you are a Switch person, Nintendo Switches can get a little fidgety, so we have our Nintendo Switch connectivity here as well. I really do suggest combing through here, being familiar with some of your troubleshooting categories. Awesome. And I think that wraps me up with going over the Playverse dashboard and all of your options there. I'm going to hit the stop share, and hopefully that kicks back over to Maggie's share. Or maybe she has to pick it up.
We're back channel texting Eric. I apologize, but we were like, man, that's new. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah.
Or, man, this really is a really nice dashboard. I mean, that's one of the benefits of when we're working with Playverse, because they do have a whole team of people that, IT people to help you on game day. They have people that are designing the dashboard and making updates. So that really is helpful. Can we go ahead and skip another slide or two here, maybe?
Yeah, they really are setting this up and constantly updating. Like I said, I practiced that on Tuesday, and then I'm clicking like, oh, that changed. So here we go. All right, Games 101. What do we offer here at Playverse? The ones that I am most excited about, I'm sure Ryan is most excited about, is our 3 titles that we actually have an in-person finals for. So we have League of Legends, Rocket League, and Smash Brothers Ultimate, that as you work your way through the league, those are the in-person. I believe we're at Oakland University this season.
Correct.
Again, awesome. Oakland University is a fantastic site. Really is, like, you have this stadium style seating. It really gets the players pumped up. Playverse also offers quite a few other titles. They just do not have in-person title or in-person finals. They're a little more regional. So you will be playing people from Ohio. I think I got all the way down into North Carolina with PreSeason just for that regional setup. So we do offer that. Madden, Hearthstone, NBA 2K, which is the one I get asked about a lot. Splatoon 2, which I'm testing a team right now for. So hopefully in the winter season, we'll be jumping into that. And Mario Kart Deluxe and Overwatch. Once again, these are regional titles, so they still run through the dashboard. You just won't see an in-person title or in-person finals here in the state of Michigan yet. All of these run the same schedule. Ryan had the slide earlier showing what days and what times each title is played, except for 2 titles that when we jump to the next slide, we have to be careful with. And that is NBA 2K. NBA 2K has a late season release this year. And rather than transitioning from last year's title to this year's title in the middle of a season, Playverse has decided that we will start the NBA 2K season at the launch of the new NBA 2K. This is a clickable link in the slide. So when Maggie shares these out with everybody, I assume at the end, you'll be able to click that and go straight to the NBA 2K schedule. Splatoon is kind of in the similar situation with Splatoon 3 just launching. It happens a little bit earlier. So all we lost with Splatoon is a week of preseason. We just start the preseason next week with 9/12, and that lines up nicely with that Splatoon 3 launch, which I think is going to be super interesting from an esports perspective. They've added a lot of new maps and a lot of new loadouts to Splatoon. So we get to see the meta evolve on that one as it comes out. If you're really big into esports and you were looking at metas before, the new game launches or new updates is always a chance for things to shake up and new things to rise up to the top. Awesome. Tech needs. Fantastic. Being a tech instructor, this is one of my heart and souls, and that's why I have internet filters here first. That, once again, is a clickable link that will take you back to Playverse's IT document that lists all the port forwarding you need. I cannot stress this enough. Make best friends with your district's IT department. They're wrestling with SEPA, Child Internet Protection Act. There's COPA, Child Online Protection Act. The IT people are really, really having to lock down our internet. Because it's cool getting past the internet filters. Yes, 100%. This is where you're going to have your biggest not connect issue. Please go see your IT person face to face if you can. I'm lucky enough that mine is in building. If yours is in a location that you can get to, IT people like cups of coffee. They like donuts. Make best friends with them. Print this list out and take it over to them. Highlight, hey, I'm playing Smash, I'm playing Rocket League, I'm playing League of Legends. These are the ones that I need to worry about, because that document does have Hearthstone, does have NBA 2K listed on it. So do them that solid. What device are you playing on? And take that over to them and ask very, very nicely. One thing you can offer, depending on how your school is set up, a timer. So for my school, They have set up a separate internet filter that kicks on at 2:30 in the afternoon. So the school day is technically done for us, and now our devices can access these pieces. You just have to be careful with updates. So if you're playing Smash, if you're playing Rocket League, keep your eye on the game titles website and find out if an update is coming through. Some of those updates can take an hour plus to download. So if you have a like 2:30, my internet filters open up, talk to your IT person that day, get them to open it up around noon for you if you can, so you can get those updates running. When these new updates drop, they're not the fastest to download. Smash is usually pretty quick, but your Rocket Leagues, your League of Legends tend to rebuild the client completely. So you're going to want some time there. What do you need? Devices and consoles. What are you going to play on? Playverse offers a lot of options, a lot of titles. A lot of games like Rocket League can be played on PC, can be played on PlayStation 4s, Xbox Ones, the new PlayStation 5, the new Xbox S's, but they can also be played on the Switch. So if this is your first season and you're still considering what kind of equipment do you need, what titles do you want to play? What are your students playing? What can you get access to? In my school, Nintendo Switches seem to be like school lunches. There's one bag for the school lunch. There's one bag for the Nintendo Switch. They go everywhere with them. Maybe your school can use that to its advantage. Play Rocket League from the Nintendo Switch. I know in the gamer space, we tend to talk about like, what can your system do? What is your system capable of? 2 years ago, they actually put it to a test. They took one of the top Nintendo Switch teams against one of the top PC teams, and the Nintendo Switch team came out on top. So it's not always about what kind of equipment you have, but trying to get the equipment that you can get a hold of to do the most amount for you. If you're not playing Smash at all, though, and you're just doing Rocket League, PS4s and Xbox Ones are kind of easy to come by, whether it's a Craigslist, a Facebook Marketplace, your local GameStop used. Facebook Marketplace just popped up. Awesome. Go out there and find them. People are now selling PS4s off. Rocket League is not a graphics intensive game, and it will match up with PS5s. It will match up with PC players. Everybody's playing on a joystick anyway, so there's no keyboard mouse advantages. Actually, with Rocket League, there seems to be a disadvantage with keyboard and mouse, except for one player I have who is just insane on keyboard and mouse. I don't know how that happened, but that is out there. Cat 5s. I know we're up to Cat 6s now. I just can't get over being old and going with old tech names. So it will always be Cat 5 to me. That's your Ethernet cable. We are up to Cat 6s now. Have plenty of extras on standby. In the corner of my room over here, I have a red Craftsman bag that is literally just chock full of Cat 5. Sometimes your school will move you from room to room. Sometimes setups ask you to set up in a different way. Maybe you cannot reach your Ethernet ports. Pick up the Pastebin app. Awesome. So have extras on hand. If you decide to really continue on with this, I do suggest that you get extra spare routers. They don't have to be really intense. A quick Linksys router will allow you to change one Ethernet port into about 5. So if you start expanding out into having separate PCs, having separate switches, but you don't have those Ethernet ports available, pick up a cheap router. It'll do it for you. It'll also help you out with the streaming environment. Maggie, I'll pick up the pace so we're ready for the next one. So what makes a good coach? It's really hard in esports, especially in your first season. Get comfortable with the fact that you're going to be a director. We do use the coach moniker here in esports. I'm the Smash coach. Coach Muloney is the Rocket League coach. But in the beginning, I was really a director. There was a lot of titles that my students brought to me that we supported here. I had zero clue what was going on with those titles. So be ready to step back and go into that scheduler role. Make sure your students are in the right place at the right time. They're there early so that you can test out any equipment needs and that they're nice and warmed up. So let go some of the coaching aspects that you might be familiar with from like football and baseball. Like, I got to make them do this drill or that drill, especially in your first season. Look for your good players and start talking to them about what they do. Be ready to build into next season or even next year of building your program into practices. This year, be comfortable just getting your players to where they need to be at the right time. With that being said, your biggest responsibilities for this first year is scheduling, tech operation, and the behaviors of your players. Scheduling, getting them where they need to be. That Playverse dashboard is beautiful about doing that. So my habit is to log in on Mondays and start reaching out to coaches just so I know where I need to be and at what time. I also start early, 2:45. As soon as that bell rings, I'm getting set up. I'm testing my equipment. If this is your first season, my Discord is on the first slide. Reach out to me. We can set up a practice match, just me and you, just to make sure that we can make those connections and that everything is up and running. Behaviors is where you're probably going to spend a lot of your time. If you're a game familiar individual, you might have heard of a thing called tilt. It's really in the gamer space, especially if your players are used to playing at home in the quiet of their own room or basement. They're going to have some behaviors that probably are not school appropriate. They're going to be used to saying things in chats and on voice chats that are definitely not school appropriate or Playverse appropriate. So really your big responsibility is to be in that room with those players and making sure everybody is acting in that professional manner, communicating with other people in a professional manner. I like to tell my students that when a message comes through to them, especially if they're feeling the heat of that game, take 20 seconds before you type anything. Take big, deep breaths. Get your head level, especially after a big loss or a big win, because being overly winning and overly losing both tend to have the same behaviors. Awesome. So team, club management, presence, player coaches, team cohesion, setting expectations. This goes under that responsibilities and behaviors. A lot of esports for these players may be their first competitive environment. I lucked out with my Rocket League players. They all came over from soccer. I don't know, soccer with cars. So it just fit for them. So I got to see them behave in a sports environment with my esports. When I saw that with my Smash players didn't have any competitive experience whatsoever with the practice, with the fire, with that competition. So one of your big management pieces is to try to get your players who do not have that competitive experience, what that presence of mind is. So really, when you're in the room for practices, you're going to be controlling the door. Make sure students are staying, or players are staying inside the room, that they're committed. If they currently don't have the controller in hand, they're watching the other players to see what's going on. If that other player is better than them, they can pick up lots of pointers. If they're better than that other player, they can be taking notes that you can have a team debrief afterwards. Hey, I saw that you did this, this, and this in this situation where maybe this would have been a better option for you. Getting that conversation to happen is going to allow you to spot who your player coaches are. They are not necessarily your best players. I cannot play Smash worth a darn, but I've spent a lot of time on YouTube, on websites, figuring out how the game is played. I can see what the player is doing wrong. I know what I would do in that situation. I can't make my thumbs do it to save my life, but I can talk to my players and coach them through that. You're going to have players in your room that can do the exact same thing. really cultivate those player coaches until you're up to speed on the team as well. And that's really going to go miles towards getting that team cohesion built. A lot of these players are used to being by themselves, solo in a room, maybe not even knowing the same people on their team. And so they kind of internalize everything, or internalize all the wins and externalize all the losses. You're going to need to get those player coaches to help you get that team cohesion built up. Some of those silly like team building activities can help out a lot. Oh, Adrian, good to see you. This is recorded, so please check out the rest. It's also your job to set expectations. Your players need to be in this room at this time. Esports kind of, when you first start your club, kind of feels more like an activity we do to hang out with our friends than a competitive environment. You have to set that you're going to be here at this time for this long. Your football coach would not let your player just like, hey, I can't be here today. I mean, of course, doctor's appointments, things like that, of course, but just like, I'm not feeling football today. That would never fly on a football team. It wouldn't fly on the competitive cheer team, wouldn't fly on the volleyball team. You can't let it fly with your esports team either. And that's going to go back to building that team cohesion. If your third person on Rocket League isn't there, you can't practice your setups. You can't practice your rotations. They've just robbed the other two players of their practice experience. So set those expectations of being in the room, being present while even other people are playing. Awesome. Communication. Just talking about those player coaches. This is a great time for your players to learn that soft skill we always talk about in school. Like, oh, we can teach them the algebra and the stoichiometry, but we can't teach them the soft skills. We got to work on that. Business wants that. Your player coaches, your players talking to each other, that's a great way to build these soft skills. Have them man the chat when they're setting up and talking to the other team. After my first season, I sit back and I watch the chat to make sure everybody's behaving, communicating the information they need to communicate, but let your players handle that communication. It's going to build up those soft skills, and you can monitor how they're doing it. There's a fine line between communicating too much, which I'm probably doing in this presentation right now, and not communicating enough information to the other players. There's that line between sounding very short, which other players could interpret as, wow, something's going wrong with this player, and really getting that information across. Also, start your comms with the other coaches really, really early. I like to reach out on Mondays, Tuesdays at the latest. Hey, is there anything going on? Is there any worries? Talk to your players too. I'm reaching out to the Novi Wildcats coach today. We're all going to be here on game day on time, right? Get that conversation started with your players as well as your fellow coaches. Maybe they need a half-hour late start. Everybody in this league is super chill, super laid back. We can accommodate a half-hour late start, but the sooner you know that, the sooner you can tell your players, the sooner your players can tell their parents and their rides, and the whole thing will go a lot easier. Also, once again, monitor those player communications. Tell them to take a deep breath after that loss. You being in the room, watching the monitor, watching the player, you're going to start picking up that body language off of them. Are they about to be a hothead? Tell them to take that deep breath before they type in that chat. And there it is, player behaviors and tilt. I've talked about it a lot so far. For your players that are in that first competitive situation, tilt's going to be a big thing. I will admit to it, 45 years old, if I'm still playing Halo, I still get tilt. I want to throw the controller across the room, and sometimes I feel like it's okay because I make my own money. Have your players put that controller down, take a deep breath. I personally have learned some meditation strategies, counting to 10, full deep inhales, exhales. Find something that works for your players. Have them take a walk. Like, step out of the room, take a walk around. You don't have to jump back in to the next game. And in fact, as a coach or director role, your player's probably not going to perform really well in round 2 if they're spun up off of a loss. There is a old term in baseball called putting the freeze on the pitcher. Sometimes it's best to step out of the box, cool yourself off, let the pitcher cool down a little bit as well, and then step back in. Remind your players that they are no longer in their parents' basement or in their room alone. They're representing your school. Schools do read, or, the coaches read the chats. They're seeing what other players are saying. We're talking to each other. Hey, how did this match go? What should I look for coming up next week? Because I'm playing Divine Child. Oh, the coach will reach out to you on Tuesday. Or, wow, the coach was really short. Maybe he was having a bad week. Remind your students that this is now out there. Much like, and I know nobody but me uses Facebook anymore, but like all other social media, the chat's permanent. People can go back in time and look at it. Keep that professionalism going. We wouldn't let football players, volleyball players, cheerleaders get away with that on their court. We can't get away with it here. Coaching tips. Yay! Tryout method. I just did tryouts yesterday. One of the reasons I like tryouts is esports is really, really weird as opposed to football and baseball. Whereas football and baseball, every once in your career, you'll get the star freshman quarterback who will ride you through 4 years. In esports, freshmen are constantly coming up way better than anybody else. Tryouts allow you to see that. It also gets commitment from your players. If there's only so many spots for the varsity team, that really gets presence and buy-in, especially for those competitive or for the new to competition ones. They may not be familiar with the fact that there's a JV. They might not be on varsity. Maybe they get into that sub position. Really pull those tryouts in. For Rocket League, I like to mix players up. Like they walk in with their team of 3 people. I mix the teams up. I'm looking for players who can communicate with people outside of their own team. That tells us how they're going to communicate in a chat with another team, but also how much of a team player it is. This also sets the expectation for team performance. Hey, this is tryouts. We're in the big leagues now. We're just not playing that couch co-op situation. I really do suggest having that varsity team and that JV team. All right, game day. Game day is super important. One of the biggest lessons I have learned about game days is making sure your players are there no later than 15 minutes early. They need to warm up. Watch a football game, wrestling matches, volleyball. An hour before the game starts, players are out there warming up. They're going through drills. Video games are the same way. These thumbs tend to tighten up. The brain's not processing as fast. We're still thinking about the math exam coming up. Getting them in early, getting them warmed up, puts them in the space to have the best game they can. It also solidifies, once again, for the players that esports is a real deal. It's a varsity sport here in Michigan. They have a chance to earn that letter. DC, if they win a top 4 or give me 3 years, they get a varsity letter. That is important to some of these students who don't play the regular competitive sports. Hey, I can't get it in football. I'm not going to get it in band. I don't have a shot at a letter. Esports is a place that they can do that. Since I know I'm running over on time, I think I've hit the esports competitive sport and communication. I'm starting to feel like I'm beating a dead horse there. So we'll kick up the time for us. Here it is, same as any other sport, preseason. Once your team is up and running and you're in through season 2, maybe you're looking at coming back, and I really hope you look at coming back in the winter season. Before that winter season starts, keep those practices going. Playverse has a really nice scrimmage finder. Set yourself up. Much like anything else in social media, everybody always waits for somebody else to ask for the scrim, and then they'll go ahead and jump in. swallow the pride down, punch in, I'm looking for a scrim, put it out there. People will sign up. On the Playverse Discord, we have a Michigan area now. Reach out to other coaches in that Michigan area. If there was a team that was better than your team, ask them for scrims. Like any other sport or any other activity, you get better by playing the people who were better than you. Maybe not like 10 miles better, just like education. We need that window. New to Discord. I can put a new to Discord document together. I can do a Zoom meeting with you later. Reach out to me in email. We can set that up. I can walk you through that. Once you get that winter season started, now start talking to your student coaches. What are the drills you're going to run? A lot of students, a lot of competitive players think they're really good at this. They can beat everybody else on the couch. Getting out there playing other teams, they're going to find out they are the big fish in a small pond, and now the pond just got much bigger. Practice drills with them. There's a lot of great YouTube content out there for drills that you can run in Rocket League and Smash. Start familiarizing yourself with it. As a brand new coach, pick one title. I'm going to work on Rocket League this year. I'm going to work on Smash this year. Become familiar with that. One of the things I do is under my school YouTube account, I've curated a list of drills for each title that I run. As you become more familiar with it, that could be a way you can put that information out there. And then if anybody's interested, I can send you my drill playlist. It's open information out there. More than happy to help. I think I've hit the scrimmages and teamwork and communication as well. Ryan's giving me the thumbs up. Fundraising and budget. I'm about to turn it back over to Ryan to talk about the referral programs and the switch bundles. One last thing I would like to stress. Your players will think that the quality of their machine dictates their performance. Maybe if we are at the pro level on the big stage, we're playing TSM and Cloud9, maybe the machines matter there. At our level here, experience and game knowledge is going to matter so much more than what your platform is. Just remind them that the Nintendo Switch Rocket League team beat the pro PC team, and that says a lot to what your equipment gets you.
Right, if you go under your account profile button, there's a spot right there where you can refer for another coach, and if you send them that, if you type in their information, it'll send them the opportunity, to join the league. And if they do, they would get $500. You would get $500. I mean, that basically pays for a Rocket League team for both seasons, in a nutshell. So something to take advantage of. I know they're getting really close if they haven't stopped it yet, but we could probably still squeeze you in. If you do have a team that's going to play on a Nintendo platform, Playverse has given out thousands of these, tens of thousands, I think, Nintendo Switches all across the country. And so that's a great one. And as Eric has pointed out earlier, is a really low barrier of entry in terms of being able to operate and understand some of those titles, especially, Mario Kart or Smash Brothers. So next slide, Maggie, if you can. I'll talk about this real quick, Eric, if you don't mind. So I used to be a tech teacher as well. That's why I like Eric so much. And then I was actually a high school principal as well. So I can say, obviously, it's probably not in a whole lot of contracts out there to have a dedicated esports coach with an esports budget. I think you'll see it get there because I don't think esports is going away anytime soon. And it's only going to become more popular. But I will say, sometimes you do have to get creative with how you want to be able to financially support what you're doing. So whether that's going out and we're really successful writing a letter and dropping that off in person to certain businesses, especially businesses that, are fabrics of the school community and participate a lot. It doesn't have to be tech industry related folks, although that is a great entryway for an easy conversation to have with people that are in that STEM field or engineering field or computer science fields to make those connections with what you are trying to do. Some schools do have students bring their own device, obviously doing different donations and fundraisers. They usually that the principal would have to sign off on for whether it's a sports team or any other club. you can participate in those types of things as well. And being able to get kind of merch going and selling things, it would be another great way as well. So there are a lot of different ways that you can try and financially support what you are trying to do, not just with the fees, but then with equipment, and then being able to participate in some special events. Although some of the events we don't even charge for a very minimal fee. It does cost gas money to get, right, to take a club, to take students somewhere, or if you want to do something, some sort of field trip. So just these are some things to think about as you're trying to fundraise for your club. I know one school in particular that plays in our league, they have laptops that are used using ESSER funds for credit recovery for certain parts of the year, specifically in the summertime, or maybe even during the day for certain hours of the day. But then after school, they are open and they are used by the esports team. So, and as Eric mentioned, purchasing consoles on Facebook or eBay or Amazon. So there are different ways you can do that. And even consider, some schools, a lot of schools do a pay to play, right? Kids pay a fee either per sport or a flat fee. I know my kids play a flat fee and that covers them for the whole year. So those are other ways to kind of generate a little bit of operating revenue for your team. And finally, again, another way to help legitimize what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to get that financial support from your school, your building, or district, is really to be active on social media. Even if you are a anti-social media person, good for you in a way. I'm still on Facebook, Eric, so we're still cool. That's fine. You do want to create awareness about what you're doing. You want to be able to tell your story, because anytime you can show kids doing something after school, being part of this community, of the school community, we want to celebrate that. Principals want to celebrate that. Superintendents want to celebrate that. That makes those people in the business and community areas within your district want to support you as well. So Twitter, Facebook, those are pretty easy entries for most educators. They're familiar with those two. Discord and Twitch are really popular, obviously, in the esports world, where a lot of the gamers are hanging out. Those are where your students are hanging out, by the way. All right. So that's going to generate interest amongst their peers that are at school that don't even realize this is probably happening yet. Like, oh, there's a team, there's a club, there's a Rocket League team. What? I didn't know that. So being active on those, having your school promoted on their website, it's just going to help grow your own program. And so this way you can go to the principal's office at some point and say, hey, I'm here X amount of days after school. I've got 30 kids with me. Like, you're basically a football coach at that point, right? When you're putting that many hours, you have that many kids you're interacting with. So that helps legitimize your program, what you're trying to do. It helps break the stigma of when they talk about video games. Oh, kids are just pounding Monster drinks in their parents' basement at 3 a.m. No, we're competitive. We are learning a whole lot of other skills related to this. We're being active and engaged in our school. So that's cool. And then we're going to try and highlight that and do that ourselves with MHSEL, trying to promote, teams of the week or coaches corner or a student high, spotlight. We're going to try and do those same very things on social media ourselves. Anything you want to add, Eric, on social media or budget fundraising type stuff?
I personally use a pay-to-play model. It helps pay for the student jerseys. It helps pay for the league fees. And then I was lucky enough that there were 5 machines in building that were used for like an old CAD program or something. I'm not even sure what was happening with them, but I was able to, over the course of the last 5 years that I've been doing this, scrape together enough money that I'm slowly upgrading those machines. Last year, it was a new set of RAM. This year, Micro Center had a fantastic deal on Ryzen 5 5600s. I had enough money. I was able to put all new processors in these machines. There is that tech aspect of it. And if you're not comfortable with PC building, I guarantee your IT person is. They've probably built a dozen machines and can tell you what to do and where to go. Your players will as well. You just have to balance that. They're going to want to spend $1,000 on a PC, and you really don't need it for Rocket League, League of Legends. Overwatch, you might start pushing the boundaries there, but even Overwatch is an older game. Yeah, the Overwatch 2 update is coming out, but I don't think it pushed the processing power that far. So build that up. your teams will grow on you. Ryan said before, like, I didn't even know we had a Rocket League team is something you will hear a lot. When I first started this adventure, I had barely 3 people for Rocket League and barely 3 people for Smash Brothers. I run a 56 player club now with 5 more sitting in the wings because they want to start a different title. So the numbers will grow on you as you really build this into a competitive program. Other students will start coming out of the woodwork and they will come to you with a million games they want to play. In your first season, just like say, hey, this is my first year. I'm doing this one right now. Let's talk next season. Let's talk next year. You really get to practice saying no in that first year.
Hey, Maggie, can you take us to the featured events? I think we covered a lot of the hot topics basically along the way already. So, and if for whoever's still on the webinar with us, if you have any questions you want to add in the chat, and Eric can answer those maybe while I kind of talk a little bit very briefly about what we have planned for this year with the Michigan High School Esports League. So real quick, we do plan on doing those championships again. You can see some photos from our fall championship at Eastern Michigan University. It was cool to award students trophies and medals and certificates and have them elevated on stage and having it streamed and doing a shoutcasting play-by-play while it's taking place in that auditorium. We did a virtual tournament that we're going to do again with the Detroit Pistons GT, which is their professional gaming team. You'll notice one individual right in the middle of that photo, happily holding a giant $2,500 check. That was a cash prize donated by the Pistons and the United States Marines, which is really cool. And we're going to be offering that again. Spring championships were at Oakland. Again, great opportunity to compete, honor and recognize talented students, and also get them on a college campus, which I think is a really important step in this process, showing them opportunities that maybe they didn't consider before, whether it's related to just going for a traditional route or they're going to be part of an esports team, because there are a ton of collegiate esports teams in Michigan, some of which do offer scholarships, believe it or not. And then this season coming up, the big thing we are doing is an Explore Esports Conference, which is going to be on Friday, December 9th. It's going to kind of coincide with our semifinal matches on the 9th, on that Friday, and then take us into December 10th, which will be our championships. Again, this is at Oakland University, and we're really encouraging educators, administrators, teachers, coaches, parents, students to come. We're going to have high school teams and coaches there, collegiate teams, industry professionals, pro gamers there, a whole slew of people coming to just help kind of educate us and others in Michigan that need to learn about all the benefits about esports and its positive impact on students. And there's a whole list of other things we have planned for this year with additional tournaments. Eric's going to host a tournament for us on Smash Brothers in the late winter, early spring. So a lot of things we have going on. We're going to start working with middle schools this year. Strategy sessions on Twitch for players to watch. We actually just are getting ready to hire our first intern, a college esports athlete that's going to be an intern for us. So that'll be a great add to our team. So really excited about all the things we have planned. So you're signed up, you're ready to go. We just have, again, some additional contact information, our MHSEL website, the Playverse Michigan page. We're going to send this recording out. We'll send the slide deck out. So just a lot of additional information for you to use to hopefully use at your disposal to make sure this season is a success. Just a couple of next steps. So we really hope you encourage you to grow your coaches network here, right? Just like there's Eric and there's others all across the state willing to help. Just a reminder to continue to sell your program and tell your story on social media and streaming and things like that. And again, take advantage of that referral program. You want to go ahead and go to the last slide? I'll just have our contact information on there again. I think that's it for us. So Maggie, thanks for helping behind the scenes there. And Eric, that was awesome. I learned information today as well, and I'm technically hosting this thing. So that was super helpful. I really appreciate your time, Eric, and everybody who joined us today.
It was absolutely my pleasure. And once again, anybody who is still out there, streaming setups, computer setups, Discord setups, anything you need. I really do love this. And the more I talk to people, the more things I learn and figure out, ideas you have I never even thought of. So please reach out. It helps me build up. It helps the community build up. And that's really what I'm looking for.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great fall season.